18 years old. You wake up and your name is worth $2.7 billion. Not a trust fund, not a startup, an empire. Tankers crossing oceans, a private jet, a Manhattan skyscraper. Islands, 217 bank accounts scattered across the world. You haven't finished growing up, and you already own more than most countries will ever see. Sounds like the dream. Now here's the part they don't tell you. Your mother is dead. She died when you were 3. Your father is a liar who started a second family while married to your mother. The men controlling your money are strangers who make you beg for school clothes. The man you eventually marry spends 8 years cheating on you and brings his mistress to your own events. And the foundation your grandfather built, the one you were supposed to lead, tells you to your face, you're not Greek enough to have your own family's name. This is the true story of Athina Onassis, Europe's youngest billionaire, the last heir to one of the greatest fortunes ever built, and the woman who watched it all collapse. Where are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because this story is only getting darker from here. To understand what Athina lost, you have to understand what was built. And nobody built like Aristotle Onassis. He arrived in Buenos Aires in 1923, 17 years old. A Greek refugee who had fled Smyrna with practically nothing after the catastrophic population exchange between Greece and Turkey left over 1 million Greeks displaced. He spoke little Spanish. He had no connections. He worked as a telephone operator at night, eavesdropping on business calls during his shifts, learning who was making deals, who needed what, and how money actually moved. Most people would have just done the job. Aristotle turned it into an education. By 25, he had built a tobacco importing business that made him a millionaire. Then came the move that separated him from everyone else. In 1932, the Great Depression happened. The global economy in ruins. Shipping companies were folding everywhere. Ships were being sold for scraps of their original value because nobody wanted them. While the entire industry was running away, Aristotle walked toward it. He bought 6 Canadian cargo ships for roughly $20,000 each. Ships that had been worth 10 times that. He saw what others couldn't, or wouldn't. During World War II, he registered his fleet in Panama, a legal maneuver that gave him massive tax advantages while keeping his ships operational. He struck supply deals directly with the United States government. By the time the war ended, Aristotle Onassis controlled the largest privately owned shipping fleet on Earth. He then pioneered the supertanker, enormous vessels purpose-built to carry oil in staggering quantities, before most of his competitors even understood that oil was the future. The empire that followed was staggering in scale. Olympic Airways, Greece's national carrier. The Olympic Tower on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. The private island of Scorpios in the Ionian Sea, purchased for the equivalent of roughly $12,000, later worth hundreds of millions. Priceless art. Real estate across 4 continents. Deposit accounts in 217 banks worldwide. When Aristotle died on March 15, 1975, weakened, broken, still grieving, his fortune was estimated at $500 million. Adjusted for inflation, that is approximately $2.3 billion today. But 2 years before he died, something happened that destroyed him more than any business loss ever could. His son Alexander, 24 years old, the chosen heir, the future of everything, was killed in a plane crash in Athens on January 23, 1973. Aristotle never recovered. The man who had outmaneuvered the Great Depression, who had built an empire from nothing, could not survive the death of his son. And the empire he left behind? It passed to his daughter Christina, a woman brilliant enough to run it, and broken enough to almost lose it. Athina Onassis was 24 years old when her father died. 24. And suddenly, she was running a global empire. Tankers, airlines, real estate. Hundreds of millions of dollars spread across the world. Most people that age are figuring out their first apartment. Christina was managing one of the most complex private fortunes in history, and she was brilliant at it. Make no mistake about that. She restructured the shipping operations, navigated brutal market downturns in the late 1970s, and kept the Onassis companies profitable when competitors were collapsing. Business she could handle. Her personal life was something else entirely. 4 marriages, each one ending in pain. Her first husband, Joseph Bolker, a Los Angeles real estate developer 28 years her senior, lasted less than a year. Then Alexander Andreadis, a Greek shipping heir, another failure. Then Sergei Kauzov, a Soviet shipping official, which scandalized the Western world during the Cold War and lasted barely 2 years. The press followed every marriage, every divorce, every breakdown. Christina battled severe depression throughout her life. She struggled with her weight publicly and privately in ways that the tabloids exploited without mercy. She checked into clinics. She checked out. She tried again. She never found peace. And throughout all of it, she carried a deep, specific resentment toward one person. Jackie Kennedy. Her father had married the former First Lady in 1968, a move that both Christina and her brother Alexander despised from the moment it was announced. They called Jackie the gold digger behind closed doors. The relationship between Christina and Jackie was cold at best, hostile beneath the surface. When Aristotle died, Jackie received a settlement of $26 million and walked away. Christina considered it a final confirmation of everything she had always believed. Then came Thierry Roussel, French, wealthy in his own right, heir to a pharmaceutical fortune. Charming. Christina met him in the early 1980s and genuinely believed, that this time was different. He wasn't chasing the Onassis money, he had his own. On January 29, 1985, Christina gave birth to a daughter at the American Hospital of Paris in Neuilly-sur-Seine. They named her Athina Helen Roussel, after Christina's own mother, Athina known as Tina, who had died in 1974. The baby was baptized on the island of Scorpios. Photographs from that day show Christina holding her daughter with an expression that looked, for once, like pure relief. But Roussel was already living a double life. While married to Christina, he had been conducting an affair with Swedish model Kirsten "Gabi" Landhark. And while Christina was raising their daughter, Gabi gave birth to 2 of Roussel's children. He was building a second family in plain sight. Christina and Thierry divorced in 1987, when Athina was just 2 years old. The betrayal hollowed her out. But Christina was smart even in her pain. She did not trust Roussel with a single dollar of the Onassis fortune. She appointed a board of 4 Greek trustees, Stelios Papadimitriou, Paul Ioannidis, Apostolos Zabelas, and Theodore Gabrielides, men she had known for years, men she trusted with her daughter's future. Every expenditure, every decision. They would control the money until Athina came of age. She tried to think of everything. On November 19, 1988, Christina's maid found her body in the bathroom of a friend's estate in Tortugas, outside Buenos Aires, Argentina. She was 37 years old. The autopsy confirmed acute pulmonary edema, a sudden heart attack. No foul play, no substances found that day. Just a 37-year-old woman whose body had absorbed years of stress, depression, and grief until it simply stopped. A private Greek Orthodox funeral was held on November 20th at the chapel on Scorpios. She was buried alongside her father Aristotle and her brother Alexander in the family plot on the island she had been baptized on, the island she had tried to protect. Athina was 3 years old. She had no idea what any of it meant yet. She had no idea that the structures her mother had put in place to protect her would become the source of nearly every battle she would face growing up. She had no idea that the fortune meant to keep her safe would feel, for most of her childhood, like a prison. She was just a 3-year-old girl, and she was alone. After Christina died, Thierry Roussel took custody of Athina and moved her to Lucy-sur-Mours, a quiet, wealthy commune on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland. On paper, it looked like stability. It wasn't. Roussel had since married Gabi Landhark, the same woman whose affair had destroyed his marriage to Christina. Athina grew up in a blended household with two half-siblings from Roussel and Gabi's relationship, plus an older half-sister from one of Roussel's earlier relationships. The family presented a picture of normalcy to the outside world. Behind closed doors, the arrangement was anything but normal. Because Christina's trustees controlled every single dollar. Every single one. Roussel wanted to buy Athina new clothes. He needed board approval. A family holiday? Approval. A bigger house? Approval. His own daughter, technically one of the wealthiest children on earth, and her father had to submit formal requests to a committee of Greek businessmen just to spend money on her daily life. The humiliation was constant. The tension was suffocating. Roussel fought back the only way he had leverage. He threatened repeatedly to relocate the family to France. Under French jurisdiction, Greek law would lose its grip on the estate's management. Worse for the trustees, French tax law would have subjected the fortune to dramatically higher rates. It was a weapon he held over them for years. Neither side trusted the other, and Athina was caught directly in the middle of it, watching the adults around her use her inheritance as ammunition. It broke something in her. In 1999, when Athina was 13, a court in Vaduz, Liechtenstein, intervened. Management of the inheritance was formally transferred from the four Greek trustees to KPMG Fides, an auditing firm based in Lucerne, Switzerland. It was meant to bring professionalism and neutrality to the situation, but the damage to Athina was already done. That same year, she gave an interview that stopped people cold. She stated plainly that she felt deep dislike toward anything Greek, that she blamed every problem in her life on the Onassis name. Gabi later appeared on the American television program 2020 and revealed something even more striking. Athina had told her that if she could burn every dollar of the Onassis fortune, she would do it without a second thought. A teenage girl, billions in her name, and she wanted to set it all on fire. The one thing that saved her was horses. She had begun riding as a young child, and somewhere in the rhythm of it, the training, the competition, the pure physical demand, she found something nobody could take from her. In 2001, at just 16 years old, she finished second in a show-jumping event in Jerez, Spain. On a horse, she wasn't the Onassis heir. She wasn't a name on a legal document. She wasn't a fortune to be managed and fought over. She was just Athina, an athlete, working. For the first time in her life, that felt like enough. But it wouldn't last, because in 2 years, the money would legally become hers. And with it would come a whole new set of people who wanted something from her. January 29, 2003. Athina Onassis turns 18. And overnight, everything her mother had locked away, everything the trustees had guarded, everything the lawyers had structured and protected for 15 years, it all transferred directly into her hands. Let that land for a second. At 18 years old, Athina woke up controlling the Olympic Tower on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, a fleet of oil tankers still crossing international waters. Olympic Airways shares, a private jet, real estate portfolios spread across multiple continents, $40 million sitting in American bank accounts alone, $90 million in Latin American accounts, $200 million in corporate investments, unknown additional sums in Swiss banks, and those 217 bank accounts her grandfather had maintained in every corner of the world. Estimated total, $2.7 billion. Some analysts put the figure as high as $5 billion when all assets were properly valued. She was 18 years old. The global media erupted. Financial publications declared her one of the youngest billionaires in recorded history. In Greece, the coverage was almost reverential. Newspapers called her a national treasure, the last living direct descendant of Aristotle Onassis, the final keeper of a legendary flame. Commentators speculated endlessly. Would she expand the shipping empire the way her grandfather had? Would she sell everything? Would she become a major philanthropist? Greece was watching. The world was watching. And Athena, privately, still resented the name they were celebrating. But there was a detail buried in the fine print that most coverage missed entirely. What transferred on her 18th birthday was Christina's share, 55% of the original Onassis fortune. The other 45%, the portion Aristotle had placed into the Alexander S. Onassis Foundation in memory of his dead son, was different. That required a separate process. Under the original terms Aristotle had set, Athena was meant to assume the presidency of the foundation when she turned 21. At that point, she would control not just half the empire, but all of it. It seemed like a formality. She was the last Onassis. Who else could possibly lead it? That assumption, that confidence that her own family's legacy would simply open its doors to her, was about to be destroyed completely. And the people who would destroy it were the very Greeks who had just finished calling her a national treasure. The Alexander S. Onassis Foundation was not just a charity. It was a monument, built in memory of a 24-year-old boy who died before he could inherit his father's world. It funded scholarships, medical research, cultural programs across Greece. It carried the Onassis name into the future. And for decades, everyone understood that when the last living Onassis came of age, she would lead it. That was the plan. That was what Aristotle had intended. In 2005, months before Athena turned 21, the foundation's board moved to erase that plan entirely. They amended the foundation's charter, quietly, deliberately. They removed Athena's automatic right to assume the chairmanship on her 21st birthday. Their argument was surgical and brutal. Athena did not speak Greek fluently. She had been raised in Switzerland and France. She held no university degree. She had no relevant professional experience. She had publicly declared her hatred of Greek culture at 13. She had never lived in Greece, never worked there, never demonstrated any meaningful connection to the country or its people. How, they asked, could someone so disconnected lead a Greek institution? Athena's lawyers fought it hard. They lost. The court agreed with the board. The foundation, built on her grandfather's money, bearing her family's name, existing because of blood she carried, would remain outside her control, permanently. Think about what that meant. She had spent her entire childhood being told the Onassis name defined her. Now the people guarding that name told her she wasn't worthy of it. Not Greek enough, not qualified enough, not enough. Full stop. But by this point, Athena's attention had shifted somewhere else entirely. She had met someone. His name was Álvaro Alfonso de Miranda Neto. Everyone called him Doda. Brazilian, 12 years older than Athena. An Olympic equestrian who had won bronze medals representing Brazil at both the 1996 Atlanta Games and the 2000 Sydney Games. He was respected, decorated, successful entirely on his own terms. He didn't need her money. He had his own career, his own reputation, his own identity built through years of elite competition. That made him feel safe. Through the show-jumping circuit, they had crossed paths for years. The same events, the same world, the same language of horses that Athena had used to escape everything else. When the relationship deepened, it felt different from anything she had known. Someone who saw her, not the fortune behind her. Together they established AD Sport Horses, a breeding and training operation based in Florence, Belgium. The company name combined their initials, a declaration, a partnership. But Athena's father saw warning signs. Thierry Roussel attempted to assert control over her finances one final time. To Athena, it looked exactly like what it had always been, another man trying to manage her life. She had spent 18 years watching adults fight over her inheritance. She was done. She sued her own father, took him to court, and won. The legal victory came at a cost. Roussel did not attend the wedding. On December 3, 2005, Athena and Doda married in São Paulo, Brazil. a lavish ceremony under extraordinarily tight security. The guest list was drawn almost entirely from Brazilian society and the equestrian world. The people who had watched her grow up through court battles and tabloid headlines were not there. Shortly after, Athina changed her name formally to Athina Onassis de Miranda, binding her identity to his. She had fought her father, survived the foundation rejection, found the man she believed was different from everyone else. For the first time, it looked like she had won. She hadn't. For 11 years, it looked like the life she had always wanted. The ranch in Brazil, the estate in Wellington, Florida. 5.6 acres purchased in 2014 for $12 million. The Athina Onassis International Horse Show, one of the most prestigious show-jumping events in the world, held annually in Rio de Janeiro. She competed, she trained, she built something that felt real, something that felt hers. And then one night in 2016, her security team found Dota in bed with another woman, in their home, in Wellington. The guards could have said nothing. Some people in that position might have looked the other way. But they had a duty to Athina. They told her. She packed immediately and flew to Belgium. The marriage, 11 years of it, was over in a single night. Dota's team initially denied everything. By June 2016, his spokeswoman formally confirmed the separation without explanation. But the full truth was still coming. And when it arrived, it was worse than anyone had reported. A close friend of the Onassis family, Alexis Manthiakis, came forward with documentation that reframed the entire marriage. A Belgian woman, a professional escort, had approached him with a file. Hotel bills, flight records, credit card statements. 8 years of them. Dota had been conducting this relationship for 8 of the 11 years they were married. Not a mistake. Not a moment of weakness. 8 years. The timeline of how the woman learned the truth was almost unbearable. She had been involved with Dota for 5 years before she had any idea who his wife was. Then in 2011, she was watching show jumping on television and recognized him. She looked closer. She found out. And rather than ending it, Dota pulled her deeper. He took her to equestrian events across Europe. He discussed his marriage with her openly, including, according to her account, the reasons why Athina had cut off contact with her father. He brought her to the Athina Onassis International Horse Show in Rio de Janeiro, to the event that bore his wife's name. When the divorce proceedings began in Belgium, Dota's legal team challenged the prenuptial agreement and presented their demands. $11 million based on the agreement's terms. $350,000 per month in alimony. Compensation for joint business ventures. Full custody arrangements for their horses. Total claim, approximately $400 million. Athina's legal team presented the documentation. Every hotel bill, every flight record, every credit card statement covering 8 years. The Belgian court ruled in November 2017. Dota received a fraction of what he had demanded. German magazine Bunte reported he walked away with almost nothing, but the financial result almost didn't matter. Because what Athina had just lived through was not just a betrayal. It was a pattern. Her grandfather had built an empire and lost his son. Her mother had loved a man who was building a second family behind her back. And now Athina had spent 11 years with someone doing exactly the same thing. The Onassis women kept trusting the wrong men. And every single time, it cost them everything. When Athina turned 18 in 2003, analysts estimated her fortune at somewhere between $2.7 billion and $5 billion. By 2017, when the divorce was finalized, that number had collapsed to less than $500 million. In 14 years, somewhere between $2 billion and $4 billion had disappeared. How does that happen? Not through one catastrophic moment. Through 1,000 cuts, each one individually justifiable, collectively devastating. The first and largest drain was the horses. People on the outside see show jumping as an expensive hobby. At the elite level where Athina competed and operated, it is something else entirely. A single top-tier competition horse costs between $5 million and $15 million. Then you need multiple horses because champions get injured. Then stabling, specialist veterinarians, international transportation in climate-controlled aircraft, full-time grooms, world-class trainers, competition entry fees across Europe and the Americas. AD sport horses in Florence required permanent staff, breeding programs, facility maintenance. The Athina Onassis International Horse Show in Rio required event infrastructure, prize money, organization. The Wellington estate alone cost $12 million to purchase and hundreds of thousands annually to maintain. Unlike the shipping empire Aristotle had built, which generated revenue, every dollar Athena put into horses went out and did not come back. The second drain was the 2008 global financial crisis. It hit every major portfolio hard. Athena's inherited investments, already being managed more conservatively than Aristotle would ever have tolerated, took significant losses. Several business ventures she attempted during this period failed without returning their capital. The details were never made fully public, but financial analysts tracking the Onassis estate noted the visible shrinkage in assets between 2008 and 2012. The third drain was the divorce itself. Even winning in court is expensive. High-profile international proceedings across Belgian, Brazilian, and Swiss jurisdictions, with teams of specialist lawyers working for years, cost tens of millions in legal fees alone. The unwinding of 11 years of intertwined business ventures. Horses jointly owned, companies jointly operated, investments jointly held, added further losses. Some reports suggested the total cost of the divorce process exceeded $100 million. And then there was Scorpios. In 2013, Athena sold the island, the private paradise where Aristotle had built his legend, where Christina had been baptized, where Alexander, Aristotle, and Christina were buried in the family plot. The island Aristotle had purchased for the equivalent of roughly $12,000 and transformed into one of the most famous private retreats in the world. She sold it to Ekaterina Rybolovleva, daughter of Russian billionaire Dmitry Rybolovlev, for a reported $153 million. The profit was extraordinary. The loss was incalculable, because you can calculate $153 million. You cannot calculate what it means to sell the ground where your mother is buried, to hand over the island where your family's story began and ended, to close a door that can never be reopened. By 2024, estimates placed Athena's remaining net worth between $500 million and $1 billion. Still wealthy by any reasonable measure, but a fraction, a shadow, of what had been placed in her hands at 18. The empire Aristotle Onassis built across 5 decades. Gone in 15 years. Not stolen, not squandered recklessly, simply spent. On passion, on betrayal, on the impossible cost of being the last person standing in a dynasty that had already lost everyone else. Today, Athina Onassis is 39 years old. She lives quietly, almost invisibly. She makes rare public appearances, mostly at equestrian events, mostly without fanfare. In 2021, she was photographed at a wedding in Monte Carlo, one of the few times she had been seen publicly in years. Friends who know her describe someone who has been through a level of loss that most people will never come close to understanding. Someone who carries it without performance. She has reconnected with Greece, slowly, on her own terms. She has been learning the language she once rejected, attempting to understand the heritage she spent most of her youth resenting. Whether that represents peace or simply exhaustion is hard to say from the outside. What is clear is this: she did not choose any of it. She did not choose to be born an Onassis. She did not choose to lose her mother at 3 years old. She did not choose to spend her childhood as a fortune to be managed rather than a child to be raised. She did not choose to be rejected by her own family's foundation. She did not choose to spend 11 years married to a man who was lying to her from almost the beginning. What she chose was horses. The one thing she picked entirely for herself. And even that got tangled up in everything else. The money did not save her mother. It did not prevent her uncle's death at 24. It did not buy her a real childhood. It did not protect her from betrayal. It did not purchase a single relationship she could trust completely. What it did was attract people who wanted access to it. And slowly, piece by piece, it disappeared into passion, into heartbreak, into the endless cost of carrying a name that was never really hers to begin with. Athina Onassis arrived in Buenos Aires in 1923 with nothing and built an empire that shook the world. His granddaughter inherited that empire at 18 and spent the next 2 decades finding out that some things, freedom, trust, a life that actually belongs to you, cannot be inherited at all. They have to be built from scratch, just like he did.